and welcome back to That Fiction Life. I cannot quite believe that I am making this video. For the last 10-ish years, we have been anticipating Avengers Endgame, and the time has finally come, and I don't think I've recovered just yet, and we've completed an entire story arc, and my brain can't handle it. So today we will be discussing the Avengers Endgame movie. From the offset, this video will contain spoilers because this will be a spoilered review primarily for the people that have already seen the movie, and we need to discuss all the feels because I feel like the fandom now needs therapy. I don't know what the hell just happened. What have I just watched? I know how important it is to not be spoiled. So if you are here and you have not seen the movie, please click off this video. Big spoiler warning now, it's going to happen, okay? I'm about to just go in deep and talk about everything that happened. If you are new to my channel, I talk about all sorts of pop culture. So if you are not yet subscribed, make sure to hit that button. And without further ado, I'm going to begin talking about Avengers Endgame. So, when I filmed my Infinity War review, I got a little overexcited and I just kind of came across a bit unhinged, and I thought if that's how I am in that video, which I will link down below if you'd like to know my thoughts about Infinity War, then what the hell's going to happen in this movie? I am just a bit traumatized from everything that happened. The way this movie began already put it on a certain trajectory. They clearly wanted us to feel a lot of stuff. And setting the movie off by showing us what happened to Clint's family in the snap broke my soul. And then they go straight into trying to kill Thanos, which I was not expecting, because going into this film I thought, right, we're going to see a battle with Thanos right at the end. We're not going to see him throughout the whole movie, let alone see his death. Everything just felt backwards. When the 5 years later came up on the screen, the whole audience, including me, was shook. That was a long time for them to skip, and even though the trailer did give this away because Black Widow's hair was red and that made me hella suspicious, that's a substantial amount of time. And then we get Scott running through the memorial like a crazy person, and that also got me thinking that we didn't ever find out where the hell half the population went. This whole disintegrating into particles is not your normal death, so where the hell did half of the world go? I always assumed they were in some kind of quantum realm. I loved seeing Black Widow in the leader position. That was everything, but what happened later, we're not going to talk about that just yet, but loved seeing her take all the power at the beginning. She seemed to really have her shit together, and she made my favourite sandwich in all of the world because I am addicted to peanut butter, so that was a great scene. So Tony having a family was the most heartfelt scene, I think, out of this whole movie. That I Love You 3000 is about to become a meme, and I'm about to get triggered every time I see it because there's a whole new meaning now. So Thor throughout this movie was a whole mood, ruling the new Asgard from a shed. He was pretty much having a crisis throughout the whole 3 hours of the movie, and honestly, I relate. Hawkeye's entrance as Ronin was iconic, and the fact that he also opened the movie was everything because he was such an underrated character, and I kind of feel as though he got his revenge by being such a center character in this one. And I do always seem to enjoy characters going rogue, and I love the fact that it's Black Widow again going to the most sort of lost character, just as we saw her do with the Hulk / Bruce Banner in the earlier movies. Talking of Bruce, actually, he has never been one of my favourite characters. In this movie, I totally fell in love with him, and I feel as though Endgame really changed my opinion on a lot of people. I adore this whole merger between the Hulk and Bruce. I think it was genius to have both of them. So this time they're reassembling the team, right? And it was so reminiscent of scenes we have seen previously where everyone goes off on their own, starts their own lives, and then a crisis happens and they all have to come together. I love seeing that every time. I also really liked that this movie was very close to the first one in terms of the teams. As much as I loved Infinity War, The original Avengers, I think, are my favourite group to watch, and so getting to see us go back to the roots and what began everything made this movie the perfect mix of showing us the original, but at the same time, the stakes are higher, we need all the heroes we can gather, so the end fight kind of balanced that up, and we'll get to that though. At this point, I'm already thinking this is too tame because I've been preparing my sanity, yet nothing was happening. So my favourite segments came next, and that was when they figured out how to use the quantum realms to go back in time. The way all the movies were fit into this and entwined all the plot lines really made it go all full circle, and so many things make sense now. Captain America getting into the lift and saying "Hail Hydra" in order to get the scepter, I couldn't handle it. Number one, Captain America is my favourite character, along with Bucky, who was cheated in this film, but we'll also get to that. I mean, all the scenes are my favourite with him, but this particular scene just totally reminded me of the comics, where the internet erupted when it was seemingly inferred that Captain America went rogue and is now part of Hydra. Now, obviously, I don't know if that's what that scene was low-key referencing, but it was just a fun link to make. Also, Tony calling the medic for himself was the most hilarious thing on the planet. So Captain America fighting himself was the best thing ever, and that's the hill I'm willing to die on. I can do this all day. I know, was the line of my dreams. And I love when people go back in time and they have to confront their own selves. And we got a really savage side from Captain when he says Bucky is alive. Captain Steve America Rogers and Tony go back in time even more. Back to a time where, you know, Peggy's still alive. I saw that Carter on that door before they even zoomed out and made it obvious to us. But that scene completely broke me because, again, Captain America had the best franchise within the franchise to me. So him and Peggy always will have a soft spot in my soul. There were so many nostalgic moments in that segment. When Tony speaks to Howard, I was done and ready to leave the cinema because things are starting to happen. Now thinking back, knowing what happens in the end, there was so much foreshadowing, and that whole scene about him telling him everything will be alright, and their hug was a form of torture watching that because it was hilarious at the same time as it was emotionally draining. So Clint and Natalie's scene broke me. Such a well crafted scene, and it wasn't predictable. They were obviously trying to both sacrifice each other, but there was not a single point where I was sure about who it was going to be until it happened. And the constant switches between who was the one that was actually going to die was giving me heart palpitations, and I think I have some kind of issue now. The way Black Widow launched herself off that wall is going to haunt me for the end of time, and I don't think I can watch another Marvel movie with her again without having some sort of breakdown, so I look forward to that. I can't believe that she was the first to die, mainly because to me she was such an important Avenger. She was this first female superhero that we got to see on screen in a Marvel movie, and for her to be the first one to die, why? And she was also one of the few human superheroes. She managed to kick so much ass without even having powers. It was just her own skill. I really liked the way everything fit together up until this point, because even though I was hella confused about all the timelines connecting, which I will talk a little bit about at the end because it's particularly important when it comes to Captain America's little stunt that he pulled. Everything fit like a puzzle at this point. So when they actually get to the final battle with Thanos, I felt ready for some kind of epic finale. And oh my god. I don't even know how to portray to you all what the state of my mind was, because at one point I actually got a headache because there was not enough oxygen in my brain from all the tears. But particularly when all the superheroes that we lost in the snap started coming up. You can imagine when Bucky ran in, I was like, save my soul. But I also loved the fact that it felt like it was time for them to join in, because like I said at the start, this was supposed to be primarily a movie about the original Avengers. So they really got such a big focus on them, but it was now time for everyone else to come in, because just when you think everything was lost, they all come to help. And here's where I get mad. Why did Captain Marvel choose right at the very end to come to everyone's help? There can be an argument again, she had better things to do, but at the same time, Earth is about to end again. I loved so many moments from that sequence. Everyone helping Captain Marvel when she eventually showed up. The way Peter was kind of questioning how you're going to get through, and everyone comes down together and they kind of help her get through the army, was such a moment. And it kind of made me emotional because I really felt like Black Widow should have been there. That scene was so reminiscent of the Infinity War scene where they were in that ditch and Black Widow was about to be offed in that film. And then Okoye and Scarlet Witch all turn up like, hey girl, we're gonna help you. Were they trying to foreshadow that? Because how dare you. The cinematography was so incredible in this whole battle because everything felt so perfectly placed. Even all the characters that we didn't necessarily hear from or see a particular battle scene with, we saw them in the background doing their thing, killing all of Thanos' army. So, Tony's death. I don't really want to be talking about this, but here we go. I had sort of set myself up for this because most people predicted that Captain America and or Tony were going to have to give up their suits, so to speak, in order for this phase to fully be over. So I had set myself up for both of them dying. However, that did not make that scene any easier. And here's where I get pissed. The Far From Home trailer literally spoiled this movie. I don't know if they were meaning to do that. There were so many clues to the fact that Tony was actually dead. The way that whole scene was directed, Peter seeing Tony's face broke an entire part of my soul that I don't think I will ever even get back. And then Pepper coming over. People all over the cinema just couldn't deal. I couldn't see the screen for most of everything that happened after. I couldn't really breathe either, so it was a whole thing. Tony's death felt very poetic to me. If you look back at all of the other movies, he was kind of the cause for a lot of the bad stuff that happened. And the big one for me is the whole Ultron thing. Just felt like a full character arc. They really played with everyone's emotions because I think out of all of the Avengers, he's the one that started it all and he kind of ended it. No one will be able to watch these movies the same ever again. There's something so symbolic about that. And what makes it the most tragic to me is the fact that he did not want to do this. He was the hardest one to persuade to actually try and get everyone back. And that just makes it worse because he's the one that lost the most now. It's just the atmosphere in that cinema was so somber and I just feel like everyone's had some kind of moment. So we need to talk about the last scene because I have like a mixture of things going through my brain right now. Captain America is going back to return all the stones in time, which was the original plan. Bucky, I feel like, knew what the hell was going to happen. He had this look on his face. It made me very suspicious. And the fact that he kind of gave him a proper goodbye gave me feels. And I feel like Bucky was a little bit cheated in this movie. Now, before you all come for me, I do know that this movie was about the main Avengers. Winter Soldier was never meant to be a main character. But at the same time, I thought we were going to get an actual Steve and Bucky heart-to-heart scene. I feel like a lot of the other characters got kind of a closed page. But since Captain America has hung his shield, so to speak, I really wanted a moment between them. And I think it happened off camera. What makes me sure that something happened that we don't really know about was the fact that he let Sam go talk to Captain first. I knew this would happen at some point during this video, and it's happening with my two favourite characters. I just feel like it's dawning on me that it's finished, and I wanted some kind of ending between Steve and Bucky. But anyway, Sam getting the shield was something that I did not see coming. I fully thought that Bucky was going to be the one to get it. They have such an immersive history together. They fought in the war, they went through so much. Steve literally started a war for Bucky, and for him to give the shield to Sam makes me really think something went on behind the scenes where Bucky rejected the shield. Now in the comics, of course, Sam and Bucky get to become Captain America, but just for me personally, my favourite comic, my favourite graphic novel actually, is The Trial of Captain America, where Bucky takes over from him, and I really wanted that to set up the next phase, because as we know, there is going to be a Falcon/Winter Soldier TV show on the new Disney streaming service. I'm so excited. I can't even tell you. Now here's where the version of events gets a little bit muddled. I am so happy that Captain America and Agent Peggy Carter got to have the happily ever after. However, rules of time travel that this movie effectively created doesn't seem to fit with what happened here, because if Captain America went back in time to live out his life with Peggy, how does that affect the present time? Because even though they did say that what they do in the past will not affect the future, why is he now aged a lot? And how does that affect all the movies that have happened? So if you know the answer to this, please enlighten me, because I am slightly confused. And it just felt a little bit out of character if that's what they intended, because I don't think Captain America would have just effectively erased himself from history. But it was the most perfect ending, I think, because those two were my favourite ship throughout the whole of the 10 years. I'm so glad so many of my predictions came true, because when I was filming my Infinity War review, I made like a list of what I thought happened to all these people, and the quantum realm being the way out of everything was my #1 theory. I did not see it coming that we were only going to lose 2 big players. I for sure thought we were going to lose about half of the Avengers overall, not even just from the main 6. Because for a big battle like that, it's very suspicious that we only lost 1 person in the actual battle. We have so many more movies coming up with everyone, so of course we knew who for sure was going to be fine. People like Black Panther, Spider-Man, Guardians, they are all still getting more movies in their respective franchises, so I was not worried about them. Isn't there supposed to be a Black Widow movie also? I just remembered. Is that going to be a kind of prequel? There was tissue scattered all over the floor where we were sitting. It was a journey. Please do let me know your thoughts, because I would love to discuss some of your theories that you had for the film, what you think is going to happen in the future. Let me know if you have any favourite scenes, because that's one of my favourite things to discuss. I'm just very impressed at what they've achieved with this movie. It was such a long time coming for them to end this whole decade. It feels so final that the actual Avengers team are finished. And I kind of don't know what to do with my life now, because it feels like the end of an era. That's all I have to say about this film. I had an amazing time. I hope you all enjoyed it as well. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Bye!